Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to, let's see what it's called, Lord of Mysteries Power System Explained for Beginners, everything you've missed. Now I did get permission from this content creator. Thank you very much for giving me permission to react to this. So I'm quite excited to check out more Lord of Mysteries, LOTM, I guess, video essays, just because I did watch it several times because I enjoyed it mostly in Chinese. But clearly I need to rewatch it again for the English or reread all of book one because I haven't fully finished rereading it when I was on the trip. So I'm looking forward to it. But either way, I thought it would be a nice way to indulge in the series in a different sense through my content. So if you do enjoy this video, then be sure to support the original. And of course, as always, if you do enjoy my reaction after, then give it a like, comment below, subscribe, and share, okay? Now, let's get started.
Lord of the Mysteries has a power system that looks insanely complex at first glance, but trust me, it is not nearly as complicated as it seems. It's actually pretty straightforward once you get into it, simple in design, but incredibly deep in execution. Now this chart behind me that you guys have been looking at, well, I made this over 2 years ago, and even back then, it was only like halfway done. And at the time, we were still about 1,000 chapters away from the end of book 2, so now it probably covers like a third of the entire system. And
I do want to note before we continue, but when I was reading it, like binge reading it, if you have watched the other LOTM video that I have reacted to, then you would know that I finished or caught up to whatever the latest chapter was in a week of starting when I was younger. And at the time, the latest chapter that was released was when, and this is spoilers, so for those of you who haven't read the novel, I recommend you jumping out of this video because I'm going to be spoiling a lot of things. It might be random because I don't generally remember every single aspect of LOTM, and I'm kind of having like a review session through these videos and through watching the anime, and of course rereading it, but I'm taking my time this time. And so the part that I left off at was, I think, right before Audrey meets Klein. And that was the part that I had to stop because that was all that was released and translated at the time. Now it's finished, so I do want to take my time with it, but I just wanted to be upfront about that. And so I don't have like the full, complete knowledge of what the ending is and what the sequel is about, even though I have everything downloaded and ready to read. Maybe I should like stream me reading it or something.
Before you guys ask, no, I am absolutely not going back to finish it. That ship has sailed. Anyways, in this video, I'm going to break down the LOTM power system in a way that avoids spoilers for any major plot points or big plot twists.
Now, I do want to stop here so you guys can read it. So yes, there's mild spoilers. I've only included things that I believe won't affect your experience. I think the best way to put it is that Lord of the Mysteries basically has a power system that's just like WUXIA novels. So if you read a ton of WUXIA stuff or watched a ton of WUXIA stuff, Lord of the Mysteries power system is really not that difficult to understand. The only difference is that instead of it being named in this like Chinese name, obviously, it's more of a Western naming convention. So replacing like certain things that would have typically been like a Chinese thing with a more Western spin on it. Like instead of having like these medicinal pills or something, it would be a potion. If you get what I mean. I mean, it's always different depending on what WUXIA novel you read, but for the most part, that's, if we put it down like the simplest form, it's basically WUXIA, but with Western naming conventions.
So there will be nothing that ruins your experience. Everything I explained here is completely safe. Whether you're planning to watch the donghua, read the novel, or check out the manhwa, your enjoyment of Lord of the Mysteries is intact. I've got you covered. Okay, so now let's actually get to the video. At the core of Lord of the Mysteries power system lies something called a pathway, also known as the Path of Divine. Each pathway is essentially a progression system, a mystical ladder of power made up of 9 tiers known as sequences. When someone consumes a potion associated with a specific sequence, they become what's known as a Beyonder, which basically just means someone with supernatural powers, akin to mages or cultivators in other series. Beyonders unlock supernatural abilities that grow more powerful and intricate as they advance. The journey typically begins at sequence 9, the weakest, and climbs upwards through the increasingly rare and potent levels, culminating in sequence 2 and 1, where a Beyonder becomes an angel level being. There are 22 standard pathways, each entirely distinct. One might govern.
Yeah, I'd rather be a normal person. If I die in that world, then it is what it is. I mean, I'm sure all of you guys want to be in a specific pathway, but honestly, whenever I think about it, and whenever I think of all those isekai stuff and any other similar like gates and regressions and whatnot, I'm always thinking to myself, yeah, I think living a normal life sounds great. Like a normal, comfortable life. Obviously not like struggling to the point of, you know, suffering and being in agony, your normal life stuff, but like living a comfortable, normal life and being a normal person sounds pretty good, you know? Anyways.
For prophecy and destiny, others might control storms, summon the dead, manipulate shadows, or bend space itself. Some pathways emphasize knowledge and rituals, while others transform their users into horrifying monsters. Crucially, each pathway grants authority over a specific domain of reality, and because of this diversity, Beyonders from different pathways can vary wildly in ability stats and roles. For example, let's look at two starting points, Seer and Hunter. These are both sequence 9, the first step of becoming a Beyonder, but they're totally different in how they work. Seer, which Clan begins with, centers on the mind and supernatural perception. Seers gain enhanced memory, spiritual senses, and spirit vision to see ghosts, emotions, and magical energy.
You know, if there wasn't so many downsides to being one, then I kind of want Seer for the memory. Enhanced memory, because I have such a bad memory with everything. I can't remember anything. I can visualize things, I remember things visually, but I can't remember like names or birthdays and things like that unless I encounter it often. So which is why I struggle a lot with remembering certain plot points and character names in various shows and series that I consume. Like, I can remember them visually and like certain big moments, but after consuming like over 1,000, like I can't remember. I can only remember how I feel about certain series at that point.
They're skilled in divination, using rituals to uncover hidden truths, while physically normal, they excel at sensing danger and the unseen. Now Hunter is the complete opposite. It is the action movie pathway. As soon as someone becomes a hunter, they get inhuman strength, speed, and reflexes. Like we're talking about punches that can create sonic booms. And on top of that, their natural senses go into overdrive. They can track people by smell, see invisible footprints, and hear whispers from an absurd distance, like some kind of supernatural tracker. And all of this is just
I don't think I would like that.
Every pathway has its own unique flavor and function, even right from sequence 9. These early stages, known as the low sequences, specifically sequence 9 and 8, mark the beginning of a Beyonder's transformation. While they have started to surpass human limitations, their abilities are still grounded compared to what comes later. Powers at this level are usually focused and practical, acting as a foundation for more dramatic and reality-defining abilities unlocked in higher sequences. Sequences 7 to 5 are known as the mid-sequences, a critical turning point where every pathway experiences a qualitative leap in power, granting Beyonders a vast and often terrifying range of abilities. At this stage, some can unleash devastating gravitational waves capable of shattering ships and flattening docks. Others gain gruesome abilities to consume a person's flesh and permanently steal their abilities, leaving the victim powerless. Some can hijack a soul from afar, killing the target and turning them into a puppet under their control. Certain mid-sequences sequence Beyonders can perceive the sins of others and deliver immediate punishment tailored to their crimes. Others can fire cosmic rays that are said to travel at the speed of light itself. Sequence 4 and 3 are the beginning of the high sequences, specifically called demigod saints, where Beyonders get immensely strong to a point where conventional means are not enough to stop them because of their crazy abilities. Some of these people are able to birth literal gods, exert minor influence over entire planets, derive power from the motion of stars and star clusters, shoot certain death rays, which will instantly kill anyone it touches. Certain demigods can spiritually parasitize your soul. Others wield the power to manipulate matter, trigger nuclear fission at will. A few can summon legendary figures or artifacts from history to
You know, that sounds very scary. Imagine if you had that kind of power, then do you think you would become power hungry, or do you think that you would be able to control your greed in wanting more? I mean, obviously, for someone like Klein, he has like actual goals, but for people who don't have goals like his, for example, if you yourself were living in that world and born and living in that world, then and you somehow reach that level, do you have a lot of confidence that you would be able to control yourself and not become like a criminal? That's something that I think about sometimes, especially when people say, oh, I want to be like this, super powerful being. And I'm thinking to myself, like, do you really think that? Or do you just think that everything's going to be resolved just because you have so much power? It's a question I think about at times whenever I read something like this or hear about something like this.
Fight for them or tap into the strength of their former selves. At this stage, merely laying eyes on a sequence 4 or 3 Beyonder could make you drop dead, lose control, or transform into a writhing, mindless mass of flesh. And above that, Beyonders step into an entirely different category, a stage that hovers between the very boundary of humanity and divinity, shedding the limitations of their mortal shells and becoming, well, different. A sequence 2 and 1 Beyonder are angelic demigods capable of exerting authority on a much more conceptual level. They become full-blown mythical beings, an aspect which is much more divine than it is human, allowing them to fully embody the meaning of their divine authority. Some of them are capable of directly grafting concepts onto themselves, manipulating both space and time, personally orchestrating events by bending the laws of reality in their favor, embodying the very idea of corruption. And it doesn't even stop there. Order and chaos, life and death, light and darkness, space and time. Sequence 1 and 2 demigods break through the very idea of normalcy, as their authorities and attributes showcase the very might of their divine nature, a characteristic which puts them at the very pinnacle of the power system. Now, I'm sure you might be wondering, how do these Beyonders even ascend up the levels of power? And how do they move from one sequence to the other? Well, the answer to this question lies in the acting method, as it is as fundamental to the Beyonder stability and advancement as the very potions which grant them their abilities in the first place. The acting method is a significant principle which stipulates the Beyonder to act according to the sequence name in order to fully digest the potion and avoid the risk of losing control. Let's once again take the name of Klein's sequence 9 potion, Seer, as an example. Applying the acting method to this simply means that he would be expected to act accordingly to the principles of a diviner, fully adjusting himself to the role while maintaining a certain level of individuality. Likewise, Leonard's sequence 8, Midnight Poet, would see him having to act in the romantic disposition of a poet, writing and composing poems which stir up the feelings and emotions of the receiver, which he ironically is shown not to be very good at. As long as a Beyonder is able to correctly identify the core meaning behind a sequence's official name, they will then be able to draft up the principles that directly applies to it, thus aiding them in efficiently going along with the stipulated acting method. And
imagine if you were getting the Midnight Poet one and then you realize you have to act as one. It must be so embarrassing at first when you're trying to, act as the midnight poet. Oh my gosh, that's one that I would never want. Trying to, make poems out of everything and being all, romantic-ish, man, I kind of feel for him.
Furthering their
I
advancements,
mean, I know it's for,
furthermore tied into
not
the
to lose
acting
control,
method
but
are
still.
Beyonder potions, a consumable which grants otherwise normal people the chance to step into the path of divine. If the acting method focuses on how a Beyonder should act, then the Beyonder potion simply answers the following question of how a Beyonder is made. This is a step which is regarded as the most basic when advancing through the sequences. The potions are made by following a step-by-step detailed formula documenting the ratio and volume of ingredients to be used in its corresponding order. I have to reiterate and state that the volume and the weight of the combined ingredients must absolutely be in their correct order, as any slight mishap carries the detrimental risk of losing control, a fate every Beyonder strives to avoid. If you know how chemicals are combined in basic chemistry, potion formulas work kind of the same way, just with ingredients that are more on the abnormal side. And if you're wondering what these so-called ingredients are, well, they are made up of a major and minor elements, with the former and most important being something commonly referred to as Beyonder characteristics, while the latter are a series of supplementary ingredients ranging from the hide of rabid mutated wolves to maybe something even as uncharacteristically simple as the shavings off a coral stone, with the commonality being that they all must be mystical in nature. Moving away from that, it's about time I touch on yet another important aspect of a Beyonder, as successfully consuming the potion is not regarded as the end-all be-all in the Lord of the Mysteries universe. Most of the supernatural skills and abilities associated with becoming a Beyonder cannot be used rashly, as ascension through the sequences comes with a specific limiting factor, most prominent at the low to mid sequences, but present at every stage nonetheless. The usage of these proficiencies comes at the expense of the depletion of something known as spirituality, a mechanic as important to the power system as the potions themselves. Spirituality is solely responsible for the fueling of the mystical, mind-blowing ability.
I know that at the time of Lord of the Mysteries, like the timeline wise, it makes, and I don't know if this question gets answered at the end of the first series, Lord of the Mysteries, or if it's answered in the sequel series, but imagine like back in the day, the first Beyonder. I wonder if they just like basically just tested out every single kind of ingredient, and then whoever dies, and if someone ascends, then that's the formula, if that's what they did. Or if they got some kind of revelation and then was able to, get the ingredients and these steps, the recipe through there. I'm very curious if that's the case. I can't remember if it was answered because, like I said, it was like a long time ago since I read it, and I'm taking my time with reading book one, so obviously it's not going to be answered there. But I'm so curious.
Ability shown throughout the entire series, as a Beyonder who is lacking in spirituality is reduced to nothing more than an averagely powerful superhuman, especially at sequences 9 and 8, because they won't be able to showcase the skill sets they are most notably known for to a high degree. Spirituality itself leaks into the physical world from an abstract, higher metaphysical realm known as the spirit world, existing as an individual extension of itself, while bonding with Beyonders, which explains why it houses such vastly arcane properties, capable of stimulating the otherworldly changes brought about by the consumption of a potion. It cannot be seen or interacted with by regular mundane means, as the only way to directly connect to spirituality is for the subject to either have supernatural properties themselves, or to go through a third-party medium capable of aiding them in forging the connection. This third-party medium may come in the form of an object with a mystical history and background, or in some cases a Beyonder, one who aids others in communicating with spirituality on their behalf. Spirituality exists in almost every aspect of life within the universe, while also being an integral factor to becoming a Beyonder. Now, what happens if you're a Beyonder whose path specializes in one type of domain, but you want to use abilities that are completely different? Let's say a Beyonder of the Spectator pathway, for example. This pathway is well known for its
Audrey.
observational and intellectual capabilities. But what if this Beyonder wants to acquire more direct and offensive skills, similar in nature to, let's say, the Hunter or the Twilight Giant pathways? How would he or she go about it? Since most Beyonder paths aren't good at everything like a few rare ones, people naturally look for other ways to gain power, like using Beyonder weapons and sealed artifacts. These are items imbued with Beyonder powers, either naturally or made by someone, and most
Plus, you can always just train your body, since it's not like it's taboo to train your body. You know, for health, quotes right there, aka self-defense. In addition to using the Beyonder weapons, because one thing I feel like the anime missed was the fact that Klein was actually training pretty hard. Like, he wasn't just learning about like Beyonder stuff, like he was actually physically training his body. So, because it kind of like once he became the sequencer, not or 8, the clown, it felt like in the anime it was like a sudden like power boost. I mean, it was, but he was also training himself, even though he sucks at shooting the gun. But you know, he was still training himself in some way or form, and I feel like that's something that I wish that they had put in a bit more emphasis on. But obviously, since there's only like a short amount of episodes, it's difficult to put in like daily life type of stuff or slice of life related things, which is why to some degree it didn't hit as hard. I mean, it still hit hard and I still cried with the deaths, but like you don't, but if you're anime only, it's still, you're still missing some degree that is portrayed in the novel, which is the development of the relationships that he has with the rest of the people there. Like, we do see a lot of their interactions like in missions and in brief moments, but it's lacking the building of the relationship between the characters and the viewers themselves. But the viewers can only see that relationship and understand the characters better through Klein's eyes. So we're missing that aspect in the anime. That's something that I feel like is a bit of a shame, but I do understand like why they're going about the way that they did. And truthfully, considering that it's only a short amount of episodes, I'm actually quite surprised by how well that they did do. Not that I'm saying that I approve of it and that it's like 100% accurate. They clearly did switch around a few things, probably for better and easier storytelling on the animated side, but overall it's not bad, but they clearly could have done better. And I'm really relieved that it seems like the problems that season 1 had, that they're going to be not making the same mistake with season 2, from what I understand and from what I heard. I don't know how accurate that is because I don't know Chinese and I don't really know like what the actual news said and what the interview said, but that's what I heard. So I would love it if someone can correct me if I'm wrong or if I actually am right, because I really do love this series. This novel, and before I read this novel, I actually read a lot of Chinese light novels, like including WUXIA and things like that. And truthfully, when I came across Lord of the Mysteries, I was bored. I was very bored. Before reading it, I mean. And the summary wasn't very good, to be honest. And I just trusted what the reviews said, because the reviews said that it was amazing. Like, the summary did not give it justice. And as someone who was bored, I was like, okay, I might as well give it a try. It's not like it's that hard to pick up something. I just needed something to, you know, make time go faster and pass by time. So that's why I read it, and it was amazing. And one thing that really stood out to me is that usually when you're reading a novel, you only get one kind of genre. But for Lord of the Mysteries, it felt like I was covering like a vast like variety of genres in each book, which is why I kept reading it and kept reading it, and I couldn't stop reading it. But that left such a deep impression on me that it is possible to build a world so vivid as Lord of the Mysteries, but also that it is possible to write a series where the switching of genres quotes with switching of genres, because technically it's pretty much the same genre, but it just feels different. Like it has like tropes and things that you would only typically find in certain genres in there. So I was amazed by how fluid and smooth the transitions were. And it just made it more exciting to read, in addition to all the thrilling aspects of it. But I think it helped that the power system allowed for this kind of fluidity in the genre, and the author was really smart to set it up this way. I did hear that the author spent like 2 years or something to build this world before actually writing it. So that must be another reason why, and he probably planned it out really well, how the story would go to some degree. Maybe not like completely, but to some degree, which is why everything, every detail, and every aspect, every character has some level of significance in the world that he builds, whether we realize it then or way later in the future. But yeah, that's pretty much what I would say. So basically, the anime was not too much of a failure, in my opinion. Mostly, at least for people who read the novel, because most adaptations that I've watched, that come from manga to anime, usually end up being worse. So I had really low expectations when I watched the anime. But surprisingly, it was done really well, and I'm looking forward to seeing the special episode and the second season and after. And of course, the game. I will be playing that game no matter what. I swear.
Need to be handled carefully. The main determinant for if a mystical item would be classified as either a Beyonder weapon or a sealed artifact lies in its inherent stability, as the more dangerous an item is, the more urgent the need for sealing and safe management. Now, there's a lot more details about how sealed artifacts and Beyonder items are made, but explaining it won't
That's
get into
true.
major story points that new fans of the anime don't need to worry about yet. Everything that I've explained so far in this video are the basics of the sequence and potion power system in Lord of the Mysteries, without going too deep into the details. I hope this helped clear up some of the confusion from the limited info in the donghua and gave you a better idea of what to expect as the story goes on. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.
So, of course, you should support the original video. But as I was saying in the beginning, that the power system is very much like WUXIA, and I still do believe that's the case. Obviously, there's some little obvious big differences when it comes to the more advanced stuff, but at the shallow surface level, it's very much reminiscent of WUXIA, with some differences in naming conventions and a bit more consistency with how each one levels up and what the core concepts are inside in order to advance. That's always something that is different between most WUXIA stuff, but I think it's wise that he set it up the way that he did. One, because it builds more thriller later on in the other books, if you know what I mean. But it makes me pretty happy with all of this, especially since the world is so vast in there. It's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to the game, but also it's just making me look forward to the anime. I'm just so excited. I wish time would go by faster so I can watch the next season already. And read more of the book, or reread it, because this is my second time technically. Oh, but I did want to mention that I feel like the sad thing about anime is that it's difficult to give all details, mostly because animation itself takes a long time to animate. Even a 30-second animation video could take a good couple of weeks, even if you have multiple people working on it. And especially if you're doing in 2D. And that might be the biggest reason why they chose 3D for the background, because it just takes so much time. And honestly, for those of you who don't really understand, I highly recommend you try animating something, even if it's a 5-second thing in 2D, and tell me if it was easy, because in reality, we always say like, oh, I want more of this. I want them to release it quicker, but it's just never going to be the case. It's too hard. People are not going to have lives at that point. Which is why the animation industry in Japan is like so bad. So if it's bad in Japan, then it's probably gonna be just as bad in China, or maybe worse or better. I'm not sure what the work environment is over there or what it's like. So if you have any understanding of that, please let me know down below. Quite curious to see if it's actually worse or slightly better than what animators in Japan have to deal with. But I assume it's like pretty similar to some degree. Maybe not like super bad, like in Japan, like the working culture, but China also has a pretty bad working culture, so I'm not really expecting them to have any better, to be honest. It's just that they have more passion still compared to a lot of animators probably in Japan. Honestly, they're probably tired at this point, but in China, I feel like there's still a sense of freshness and excitement and passion for the work that they do. So I guess we'll see. Not that it's like non-existent for Japanese stuff. I'm just saying that because it's like so far along, they kind of lost their spark for innovation and quality. And it's just a matter of releasing it because of consumerism rather than it being a passion project, which feels more like the case with Lord of the Mysteries. It probably helps that everyone in that country loves, Lord of the Mysteries so much that if they fail, then like really badly, then they would probably get canceled so hard. But in any case, if you enjoyed watching this, then be sure to give it a like, comment below, subscribe and share, and of course, as always, make sure to support the original video as well. I'll see you guys later. Bye!